review is we've taken the paper roll and we've taken a tube and taped the end of the paper roll to the tube, and now we've rolled it. And that way we now can do our practice painting. One thing I like to do is I'll have a strip of paper with me when I'm painting where I can test the ink. So you can go ahead and do that. Since this is our practice roll, we can go ahead and just use our practice roll for this test. And now I'm going to just take some of this lighter gray. And a rule of thumb is you only want to use the lower half, just half of the brush. So I've put about maybe a third of the brush with this light gray ink. And now I'm just going to do a test brush stroke. So I just do that so I can see what tone that light gray is. Now I'm going to go and pick up about a quarter of the way the dark gray. And now I'll test it here. So you can see it's a little darker. So let's go ahead and now check and see what it's like when we just go with the straight ink. And you can see it's much darker. You can also, what I've done now is I've actually built up a gradation by loading the light gray, the dark gray, and then the black. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just pick up from the very, very tip end of my brush, the very end, and now I'm going to do a side stroke. You may have noticed that my first strokes, I was holding my brush like this. So when you hold your brush like this, you can roll it. I'm right in the middle of the brush. This is the orchid bamboo. And I'm holding it with these 3 fingers, and then I can control it with my pinky and my ring finger and move it around. So I also am going up and down with the strokes. So when I did that stroke, I went up and down. Let me show you again. So this is a thin, thick, thin. This is what we do for a bamboo stroke. Now I'm going to show you how to do an angle stroke. We'll go pick up the tip with the darkest ink. And this is really just to show you gradation. You can load your brush so that with one stroke, you can get this wonderful 3-dimensional where it goes from dark black to light gray. And this is wonderful for making those bamboo strokes that we talked about. Now the next stroke that we're going to look at is called the bone stroke. So to do this, the first thing I'm going to do is I like to always rinse out my brush between strokes. And now I'm going to reload the brush, first with the light gray, then with the dark gray, and then the darkest black. And now what we do with, it's a dance. So I want you to notice how when I'm doing this painting, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So I go back, forward, back. And if you stand when you paint, that's also very helpful. So now let's look at this stroke. You go back, forward, back, back, forward, back, back, forward, back, back, forward, back. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can see now it's quite 3-dimensional, and you can make it even more so by here. I'm going to just straighten out the hairs in my darker gray. And now I'm going to do that same stroke, and I'm going to connect the sections. So to break down what this stroke actually looks like, if you were going to slow it down, you can always slow down the video and look back. But what you're doing is you're actually doing what's kind of like an S. So if you were holding your brush completely vertical, it would be like this. Now, what you do is you tilt it at a little bit of an angle. So when you do that S, you actually go, I'm going to just paint right over this. You go touching it, and then you lift a little bit, and you touch, and you come back. And so I'm going to add a little bit more ink. And now we'll see this bone stroke. Looks like a bone. You can also do this bone stroke this way or this way. So this connecting, we did it this way. So it was completely vertical. So let's tap off the excess, the dark gray, just about a quarter. And then now this tip, I'm going to pick up about a quarter of it, a little less than that. So now I've got my brush loaded for the bamboo leaf. And that is the thin, thick, thin. Lift it, come down across the paper and lift it up. Lift, come down across the paper and lift up. Let me do one. Okay, so it's thin, thick, thin. So a good exercise of the paper, just to get the muscle memory, the exercise down. Sort of like doing scales. The next bamboo leaf exercise we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and load the brush like we did before, halfway with the light gray, about a third with the dark, and then a fourth with the darkest. And now we're going to do what we call our 1, 2, 3. So you do 1, 2, 3. We'll do it from this angle. 1, 2, 3. So it gives you to work on. The next thing we're going to do would be the branches. So here we want a drier brush. So I'm just picking up the darkest of the ink. And I'll show you to do the branch. You follow the leaf on the branch. You follow the branch and then you press down and lift. Press down and lift. Press down and lift. And you want to start getting in the habit of making your bamboo leaves different sizes so that they're not all uniform. Usually one bigger and then 2 a little bit smaller on either side. So now that we've warmed up, I want to do one more exercise because this is a completely different way to do the bamboo. And this is what we're going to be doing with our imperfect Schwan and our premium jade. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse out the brush I've been using, this orchid bamboo, because I'm going to get a different brush ready now. The next brush we're going to do is, this is called a Bif Brush. So I'm going to get this wet, and it's a very thick brush. And so it's going to take a while to load it. And this is something I found that, especially beginning SUMI-E painters, you need to have some patience just to allow the brush to really, really soak up the water. And so once it's actually dripping wet, then you can knock off the excess water, because now we want to load it. We want to load it with our grays. So I'm going to load it with the light gray from side to side. And this dish, the lid, I've kept just for mixing the ink into the brush. And now I'm going to take my dark gray and just get the edges of this brush, leaving the center with the lighter ink. And now I press down and blend those hairs. And now I'm going to just take the darkest black, and I just want to get that on the very, very ends of the brush. Now I could have been a little more patient and added more water to the brush, but let's go and see how I'm doing. Now this is the one stroke technique. See that even though it's dry, you still get a very good three-dimensional look to it. So here I'm going to go ahead and just go back to my orchid bamboo and pick up some of the dark. I can go back with the bone stroke and connect. So right where these sections met, that is where I'm going to be connecting. Now again, I can take this brush, spread it, and then add a little bit of darkness to the edges and blend. And now pressing together, I could make bamboo branch coming out here. And from here, you get the nice little three-dimensional with the branch. And now I can just go ahead and add my leaves following the branch. And so that's how you put the leaves and the branches on the trunk. So there, that's how you put together the bamboo. Next, we're going to be using the bigger sheets of imperfect Schwan. So with that, I'm going to load up a hacky brush. Go ahead and clear off my practice roll.